if you're bored in your faith, then you're not reading the Gospels. You're not reading the Bible, because a life of faith is extraordinarily adventurous. It's filled with courage and risk and excitement. And you've probably accepted far too much of a risk-averse life, and that's why you're bored. If you're not leveraging anything for the kingdom, then that's why you're bored. I mean, seriously, if all you're worried about is padding your 401k, climbing the corporate ladder, just doing the thing, and just falling in line, it's because God did not create you for that. I mean, that's the reason why you're bored. Like, what's your outlet for creation and creativity? It doesn't even have to be a job. Like, what are you doing to put your, like, if you work in a head job where you're thinking all the time, what are you doing to put your hands to work? Are you building something? What's your adventure look like in your life?
Hey crew, it's Emily and Adam. We're back today on The Conversation. This is episode 295. We have some exciting stuff coming up for you all.
Yeah, to celebrate episode 300, we have a giveaway. Tell us about the giveaway.
So our giveaway, just to thank you guys for listening to The Conversation and to celebrate 300, we're going to give away $300, but it's going to be three $100 gift cards to three of you. It's going to be to a place of your choosing. So anywhere that you like to shop, anywhere you like to browse, you get to decide where you get this $100 gift card from.
This is the easiest opportunity to win a gift card.
It
Literally.
is.
You do these two things, and then you tell us, and then you possibly win a $100 gift card.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
If you had to pick where you got $100 for, where would you pick?
Probably Target.
And I would probably pick Shields.
I feel like you could get Shields would be a good one too.
Would
you can get
pick
anything.
Shields
from
or Target? Which one would you do?
I'd probably pick Target still.
Gosh, I'd stick with Shields.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm so sorry. Okay, so to get entered, here's what you need to do. You need to go subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Adam A. Weber. To subscribe there, do that. And then second thing, go and leave an honest review of The Conversation. So you can do that on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Just leave an honest review. It could be one word, it could be one sentence. Just leave an honest review. So do those two things and then simply let us know. You can DM my Instagram, you can reply to the email list if you're on that, and just say done, and you will be entered for a chance to win one of these three $100 gift cards. That's pretty amazing.
I know. I'm entering. You have a good chance of winning this.
There's a high chance of doing it, so try that. Partners. We have partners that help make these conversations possible, and I just want to give a huge shout out to them. The first partner is Tommy John. Tommy John Clothing. If you haven't worn Tommy John before, I wear it every single day. That might be TMI, but I don't care. You need to wear Tommy John. They have thousands and thousands of 5-star reviews, over 20 million pairs of Tommy John sold. Whether it's their undershirts, underwear, modern polos, my current favorite is the Tommy John shorts. I wore them while I was in Kenya because it's not warm enough here yet. But the Tommy John shorts are awesome. To learn more and to go shopping, visit TommyJohn.com. Go do that, TommyJohn.com. Our second partner is Vern ID Mitsubishi. Vern ID Motorcars is a growing, employee-owned, faith-based company that sells cars, trucks, tractors. If you're looking for an Outlander like I drive, an Acura, a Ford, Honda, Chevy, name the make of vehicle, they most likely have it. Their goal is excellence in everything that they do. And as a customer for years, I can tell you that they do that. No matter where you live, they'll ship the vehicle to you. Go visit vernid.com.
Perfect. Today, Adam had a conversation with Peter Ostapko, who's the founder of the Kinsmen community and publisher of the Kinsmen Journal. What were some of your big takeaways from your guys' conversation?
Loved this conversation. And a couple things. We talk about what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a man? And I thought that was super powerful. I asked him the question, I think so many men are bored. They're bored with their work and they're bored with their faith. His answer, this mainly is around men, our conversation today, but I think women would be like, whoa, this is really helpful for the man in my life just to know. But his response to men being bored was amazing. And then we talk about how to raise sons. And he shared that stats of broken bones in kids has plummeted, which sounds like an awesome thing. Like, we don't want kids to break their arms. But what he was trying to say is so few kids are playing
That's crazy.
and playing outside because of technology and because of whatever.
I remember when I was in school, everyone always had. There's people with like casts on all the time. It was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, Sally broke her arm.
And then
Sally broke her arm again.
I was just shocked. He's like, in the name of safety, specifically with boys, we've not allowed them to be boys.
Yeah.
And that really struck me. I think if you have kids, whether you don't have kids, men specifically, share this with the men. Enjoy this conversation.
I'm from Springfield, from Southwest Missouri. My biological father, grew up in New York, just across in Bayonne, New Jersey, just in the city. My mom's from Southern California. They met at a college in Southern California, but decided to move to Missouri. They wanted to have a little bit of land, and my dad, being a city guy, wanted to have a couple cows and all that kind of stuff, and so he tried his luck at that. But so yeah, I grew up in Southwest Missouri when I was young. My parents separated then, but we stayed here, and I've grown up here. It's a wonderful place to live, and met my wife in college at Evangel, which is a wonderful Christian school here, part of the Assemblies of God denomination. They're headquartered here, but I graduated in 2008 with a finance degree. Was planning to go into some type of a financial advising or something like that. Wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do, but like when you're in your early 20s, you're just, you don't know what you don't know. So you got to try something. Market collapsed. Literally, we're in our financial management course, and Bear Stearns is like closing their doors. Lehman Brothers, everything's just falling apart. And they're like, it's going to look a lot different for you guys in the job market. So I ended up getting a position for a private insurance company doing audits of workers' comp and general liability, and, just dream job from day one. Just kidding. But it was a great position. I worked from home before working from home was cool. I had a company car. It was a great position. But what I loved about it, I didn't realize the value of it. I do now. Like, everybody that I worked with were key decision makers. They were the business owners. They were the bookkeepers, CPAs. And so I just learned to communicate with people that were making big, important decisions. Did that for a handful of years, and then cut my teeth actually in church and nonprofit lending with a boutique lender. Worked with churches all over the country. Absolutely loved it. It was really, really fun. But I traveled quite a bit, and as we were starting a family, I did not want to be away from my kids. So moved to a regional bank and then local banking, did commercial banking. So I did $7,000 truck loans and, $20 million development loans for hotels. So it was kind of everything in between, And so did that for quite a while. But the Kinsmen story really started. I was in Wichita, Kansas, read The Revenge of Analog, Real Things and Why They Matter. And the Holy Spirit just used that as a curiosity. And I just leaned into it for a couple of years and was learning everything I could. I couldn't take in enough information about what was happening with media, print media, men's ministries, fatherhood, the church, and kind of the intersection of all of these things. And so I emerged from that in 2019 and said, we're going to publish a really, really neat journal or publication for men. And it's going to be real stories. We're going to use beautiful imagery, photography, and we're just going to talk about things that I think guys want to talk about. And it's not going to be a thought leader thing. Yeah. It's not going to be a communicator thing. It's going to be just real stories from real people. Not that communicators and thought leaders aren't real people, but sometimes we idolize or we fixate on those, like the top 10 how to do this or how to hack this, and it's like we really relate with story, and especially in an image-driven society and culture, if you're going to put a print material out there, it's got to be really, really good visually, and so we leaned heavily into that. So we hired photographers to do all original photography, and so this was in 2019, and then I said, all right, Lord, this is I think this is your vision. And I mean, he just miraculously, like, I genuinely say this, like miraculously, providentially provided for the creation and production of this journal for the next few years. And it was faithful in the little things. I was still in banking and I was just birthing all of this in the margins of life before 7 a.m. and after 9 p.m. I did not sacrifice my time with my kids. I did not take the weekends and work on this. It was literally birthed in the margins. I did take some of my bank holidays. We got a few extra, to work on the project. but the Lord just brought the people, the resource, the story. I mean, it was just beautiful. We operated under our church as a fiscal sponsor, put the journal out in 2022, printed 2,000 copies, gave away half, sold the other half. We realized we're really onto something. There's something here. Didn't really know what to do with it. Continued to just be faithful for 18 months. And then we launched Kinsmen Table, which was like the journal coming to life in real form. Christ-centered brotherhood. When we think of brotherhood, we think of like band of brothers, like go to war together and battle. The unfortunate thing is men don't go to war anymore. We don't relate to that analogy like previous generations because we don't need to go to war in that way. We are at war, but not in the same way.
Yeah.
And so even just some of the language and the vernacular that we use is very intentional, and I think it's just landing with guys. But we updated the vision statement, but even lately our board is like, hey, how do we describe Kinsmen? And I'm like, it's kind of hard to say because it means a lot of things to different people, but this is kind of what we're settling on, even to shorten it, is it's brotherhood redeemed. And it's a reorienting of what it looks like to love one another in the context of friendship with other guys in every area of our life. I think so many things in our life are compartmentalized. We do this on Sunday, we do this Monday through Friday, and we're trying to figure out, how do we just live this coherent life? How does it all connect together? And that's what we're leaning into. Everything in and around our lives is digitized, optimized, and it's not relational. We are relational beings. And for guys especially, we are taught and conditioned to perform, to show up. And so when you can come to a place and genuinely nothing is expected of you, not even your name and your email. I mean, your name, we have to put your name on a card. But when they walk away and they're like, oh, they didn't ask for anything. Like they really wanted to create something that was for me. I'm telling you, it elevates the substance and the depth that a man will go to instantaneously because he can sense that. When he's getting hoodwinked to like get into the thing, it's like guys are like, I'm out. I'm out. I already have that. I have that in every other phase of my life. And it's not to say like there are places, and we're seeing this as like there are guys who want to go deeper. And so how do you put those offerings out there? But initially, and we're trying to keep that integrity, is when we're bringing men together, like we're doing it because we genuinely care and love men where they are, and we want to create a seat at the table for them. It's really important. And so we're learning as we go. We don't have it all figured out. So anyway, so that's kind of the journal, and then we do the podcast, and we're just figuring it all out.
Well, that's incredible. So first off, anybody listening, get a copy of Kinsmen Journal. Secondly, what Peter said, like it took place in the margins.
Yeah.
And what I want to highlight, and I'm just going to challenge men and women. The thing that you want to do and feel led by God to do, go do it. And with the excuse of I have no time, I throw the flag on that and say, you do have time. That is your cop out to not listening to the voice of God. So Peter just said he did it in the margins. You can do it in the margins. Both of us have kids. Both of us have marriages, busy lives. Like, I'm just kind of calling out the excuse that you have of, I don't have the time. You do have the time. You don't, it's not a high enough priority. So we need that idea that God's laid on your heart, just like we need Kinsmen. And so go do it. And then the other thing I need to quickly say is because of Peter and a mutual friend of ours, Brad Lomenick, I put together, after being haggled by God for a long time, and I said I didn't have time to do it. That was my excuse too. I did a crew night a couple of months back, and when I got home, I told my wife, I don't know what we just did. All I know is that it was one of my favorite things I've ever done. It was invited a group of people. I never thought they'd show up. It was supposed to be capped at 100 men. It turned into 112. And it was just the amount of messages I've gotten, like, when's the next one? When's the next one, was incredible.
Bingo.
And so Peter, I just need to thank you for that. When it comes to the work you're doing, what's maybe been one or two of the most surprising things that you've learned about men, or one or two things that have like you've been like, whoa, I thought this, but I didn't know this like so strongly from men?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll get to that. I want to say one quick thing about
Yeah.
when God plants something in you. I think what we often do is we put the timetable on our terms, and we were like, okay, God, I'm going to go do this thing. Now I need you to show up.
Oof.
And we have to release the outcomes and the timing to God. That's really easy to say. It's very hard to do.
Yeah.
For 7 years, I was a volunteer. Like when I left my job, I pulled a lot of money out of my savings. And I'm not saying you have to do that, but I knew it was what we were supposed to do based on that time. We didn't do that immediately. We were 7 years in before we did that. But we were cultivating the soil, watering it, planting it. Like
That's good.
You have to release the outcomes and the timing to God. And then the other thing is not everything needs to be a full-time. Sometimes it's just a creative outlet that connects you to God. And he is the prize. He is the prize. Presence and intimacy with God. God is far more interested in who we're becoming in him than what we're doing in his name. Period.
Man.
We need to all be reminded of that. I'm reminding of myself of that right now. But that's the reality. And so run with that. So do the thing in that way. And then you won't come back and say, well, why am I so exhausted? Why am I so tired? No, you'll be energized by that place and that thing you're doing because you're doing it in the proper way. You're not sacrificing all of the things that God has already given you at the expense of like this thing. You know what I mean? So anyways, I wanted to speak to that.
Thanks for saying that.
But going back to with men, I would say a few things. I wrote actually, I called it a letter to the church about men, and released it in a podcast. And copies of the journal right now that are purchased, we had a printed copy of it. It's like a 30-page, just because we have a lot of images in there. We've included it in there, and so it's just a beautiful, almost like a manifesto, if you will, into the church, and it includes some observations in there that I'm seeing about men and culture. And the first thing I say is we need to stop blaming the church. Pastors easily say this, like, stop blaming the church. But I think we need to be really careful about the language that we're using, is that churches and pastors, I say this kindly, not to you specifically, but I hear a lot of churches blame culture and cultures blame the church. Somebody needs to stop blaming the other and just live it out and demonstrate. So for churches saying, we're not in combat with culture. We are a part of culture. We're to renew culture. We're to redeem culture through the blood of Jesus and the way we live our lives, and we love people and tell of his story and present the gospel. That's how we renew culture. So I think even using combative language, we have to stop that. And I think it starts with men. Like, we have to stop using us versus them, zero-sum arguments. We've got to stop. That's the first observation. The next is, like, this isn't a socioeconomic thing. The needs of a man fundamentally, relationally, defy financial positioning. Like, it doesn't matter. Now, yes, a man who has means, he has more flexibility to find methods to, maybe numb his pain, if you will. But he also has better access to things that can make the vice that much worse. But universally, men need one another, and we don't know how to have friends. We don't know how to have friends. Everything in our life is transactional, and we've adopted that philosophy with our friends. I do this for you, you do this for me. Yeah, man, let's go hang out. Like, let's get this deal done. Like, we'll go play golf together. Like, we can be, we'll just get this deal done together. We're buddies. It's like, no, that is a transaction. When Paul talks about brotherly love and affection in the New Testament, he's talking about that. It's this idea of philia. It's love. It's attachment. It's, I will show up for you. I am here for you. I love you. You are my brother in Christ. It is a new way. It is a different paradigm. But it takes unlearning of what transaction looks like for us to have an understanding of what it means to love one another and show up for one another consistently, over and over and over and over.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I know one of the things you're passionate about is redefining modern masculinity. Help define that for us. What is unhealthy masculinity and what is healthy masculinity?
Whew. Well, I would say this. Here's how we define masculinity. By releasing ourselves from having to define it. And here's what I mean by that. Like even the phrase, like, what is biblical manhood? Like that's such a heavy, weighty phrase. I mean, let's just look at the person of Jesus and the way that he lived. He was lion and the lamb. He was confrontational, but he was gentle. He was kind. He was patient. He spoke up when he needed to. He didn't shy away from the moment, but he was also very, very humble. He loved people. He was in deep, deep relationship with few, and then he was friends with a lot more. But I will tell you, if there's one thing that I would say overwhelmingly, that every single, like if you were to say, hey, give me some key like characteristics of a godly man, he is a man of humility. He is a man of sacrifice. He is a man of kindness. Oh man, I'm just getting emotional talking about this. This is what our world needs, man.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need pompous, arrogant, like wealthy, like just things that are driven by the things of the world. Like, we need men who are surrendered at the cross, that are living it out quietly right where they are. We need a demonstration of what it looks like. That's what we need. You know, I'm going to say this, and I mean this kindly, because I know a lot of people probably listen to this or kind of in this I'm all about like leadership. We need more followership. I'm all about, like, there's great sermon series. There's a lot of great leadership books and all of these different things. It's all great. But we need people that we know that are living out faithfully how to follow Jesus. And that will be the most transformative thing in our lives, period. It's not going to be my podcast. It's not going to be this podcast. Yeah. It's not going to be the next leadership book. It's not going to be the next tech hack. It's not going to be any of that stuff. It's going to be an abiding relationship with Jesus and living that out with other people faithfully, not perfectly. And as men, that's just what we need. That's what our culture needs. That's what our families need. That's what our businesses need. That's what we need, is that. And it's not headlines. It's not seminars. It's not conferences. We can learn from these things, but that's not going to change our lives. That's not going to transform our communities. It's going to be getting into the weeds of the everyday life of the things directly in and around us. That's what we saw Jesus do. And so that's how I would define masculinity.
That's good.
So.
Peter, I think so many men are bored with their work and their faith for that person who is them, that man, and they're not a pastor. What they're bored in their work and their faith. What should they do? I'm bored. I'm coasting because we're at a good place in life, or I'm just doing this clock in, clock out. What would you say to them?
Well, there's a few things there. Boredom. Here's what I would say. If you're bored in your faith, then you're not reading the Gospels. You're not reading the Bible, because a life of faith is extraordinarily adventurous. It's filled with courage and risk and excitement. And you've probably accepted far too much of a risk-averse life, and that's why you're bored. If you're not leveraging anything for the kingdom, then that's why you're bored. I mean, seriously, if all you're worried about is padding your 401k, climbing the corporate ladder, just doing the thing and just falling in line, it's because God did not create you for that. I mean, that's the reason why you're bored. Like, what's your outlet for creation and creativity? It doesn't even have to be a job. Like, what are you doing to put like, if you work in a head job where you're thinking all the time, what are you doing to put your hands to work? Are you building something? What's your adventure look like in your life? Like, if everything, okay, this is another thing. This might ruffle, but if everything that you do outside of your work and church revolves around your kids, then your kids, that's called child-centered parenting, and your children have become an idol, and you need to change some things. If you have no margin for you to do anything that you want to do in life, that's your fault, and you need to change it. Like, I have guys that will be like, man, I really want to be at this Kinsmen night. I can't be there. It's Johnny's practice. I was like, really? You can't miss his practice? You're not even a coach. He'll be fine. Like, you need this for your life. Will you show up? Like, and I'm like, and I say it kindly because I'm like, I got 200 more guys that want to be in the room. Like, do you want to be there or not? Because this is, I can't, listen, the championship game, you can't miss that. But I feel like the pendulum has swung all the way where everything in our life is ordered around our children's schedules. It's just, that's a problem. And so take more risks. Like, you want to do something crazy? Like, if you have a few $1,000s that you're like, I don't know what to do with this, should I put it in the stock market? You know what? Go do something wild with it. Go buy a screen printer and print off shirts. I don't know. Go buy a really fancy like espresso machine and learn how to make fancy I don't just do something, for crying out loud. Do something impractical. Don't be practical. We have overly practicality. I don't know how to say the word. We've everything is too practical.
Everything's too practical.
We got to throw away the plan. We have to take risks. I will say this, that we have to take risks. We have a shortage of courage. We need to have more courage. We need to do things that defy logic, but that are infused with God's Spirit. Like, there is not a person, there's not a man, I will say this, and I will say this with some gusto, because I've heard it. There's not a man that I have talked to that doesn't have a dream, that doesn't have something that he wants to do. But every single one of them that haven't done it is because they're afraid and they've bought into fear. And they're just buying into fear. Stop buying into fear. Do the thing that you need to do. If you know without question God has asked you to do something, you have to do that thing. Again, go back to our earlier part of the conversation. You have to release the outcome and the timing. It's like, leave it up to God for whatever that looks like, because ultimately what he's wanting to do is he's inviting you in on this journey of apprenticing with him. And in doing that, you're going to learn more about yourself and about him and his love for you and his intimacy. And that is where the risk is. That's where the courage is to go places that most people don't want to go. You're bored because you avoid the hard things. You avoid the hard things because you're afraid, because you've been shackled with shame, because the enemy has placed it on you over and over and over again. You stop doing those things, I promise you, your life will change. And here's what's going to happen. When you do that, other people are going to see it. And they're going to be like, okay, I want some of that. How do I do that? You're giving permission. There is a dream that is dormant in every single man. But we have to give up this idea that it needs to be a profitable endeavor and we need to like launch a company. That's not for everybody. But there is something of creativity in everyone. And it could be starting a group. It could be, you know what, I've always wanted to like learn more about counseling. Well, then go take a course at your local college. Like, go take a course. Yeah, I've always been really interested in just the place of like how the gospels play together and just learning about it. Well, then take a course. Like, get into theology, or, you know, I just for whatever reason, I love to work with my hands, and like, I'm just drawn to like, you know, being outside, and I love plants and it. Well, then like, just start a new garden. I mean, just do something that doesn't make sense. But I tell you, if your excuse is you can't do it because the kids X, Y, Z, it means you need to reorient some things. I mean that kindly, but I see it. I see so many people who have sacrificed their entire life around their kids' schedule. And I think it's a very, very damaging thing. And I think ultimately our kids are going to be like, why didn't you do that thing? Well, it's because we were showing up for every possible thing for you. And there's a place for that in seasons, you know, like with sports and stuff. But I think we need to, that's one area I see, especially in Christian communities and culture, where we've really adopted this child-centeredness in everything that we do. And we need to revisit that. My wife and I are revisiting about, okay, Kinsmen's a great thing and it's amazing. Okay, what does Peter and Sarah look like? What are we doing for fun? Like, how are we enjoying one another? We have to, every year we have to reevaluate how we're living life, because we're getting older. We're changing. Our kids are changing. Our work's changing. Our finances are changing. And if we're just continuing to do the same thing over and over, we're going to keep getting stuck. So
that's good. That, Peter,
I hope I answered your question.
That was my favorite part of everything you've shared. You need to talk about that more. You need to talk about men being bored and give the battle cry that you just did. Because I think that is, you hit it out of the park. If you're looking,
I'm going to say one more thing.
If you're looking for a book or a next copy of the journal, there it is.
Well, it's because I'm living it, bud.
Yeah.
And I've never been more dependent on God than I am right now in my life. And practically speaking, it should be very frightening. But it's the most invigorated I've ever felt in my life. And I think there's something to that.
Yeah.
Is that we have exchanged safe, practical, predictable for the adventurous, courageous, risk-filled life of following Jesus. And what a terrible exchange.
What a terrible exchange.
And I feel like I know this, and it looks differently for everybody. But God was like, hey, I have something for you, and it will be the adventure of a lifetime. But you're going to have to come after it. I'm not just going to give it to you. I believe God honors when we have bold vision and when we go after things for him or with him. And I've just seen that in my life. And I want others to have the same thing because, yeah, like I've learned so much about him and my life through it. And so there you go.
That's good. That's good. Last thing I got to get to, and it might be similar to this. You posted on Instagram, boys don't come alive. And maybe that's along the same theme, but I feel like even as fathers, this could help us. We've protected our kids, basically our sons, for the high stakes in the name of safety. Anything that you want to add there?
Yeah. So this is a fun one because my wife and I, so my wife's the oldest of 4 and she's a girl. And so when you're the oldest, you're usually high level of responsibility. You know, you're like, hey, you don't like to, you kind of stay inside the lanes. You don't, you operate in a safe environment, which is really good. Like there's a lot of good. Oh, I'm a third born, and I'm a boy. So I'm like, where's the party at? Let's go. And I'm like, well, that's not really a rule. Like, is it really a rule is that really, no. I mean, I don't like just bend and break rules. That's not what I mean. But especially with boys, it's hard to be a boy right now. It's very difficult to be a young boy, to be a man. And this goes back to earlier with the language. We need to stop combating. You know, we hear like toxic masculinity. We hear phrases like, me too. There's a lot of language that is very damaging for men. And I think that's why they're resonating with some of the things that we're saying. But we're doing it in a way that is not combative against what's being said, but rather we're just demonstrating, and they're like, okay, no, I resonate with that. That's what I'm looking for. But with young boys and men, like everything in our culture, I keep using culture. I'm like, we're not combating culture, but like in our world, like the way we live our lives, like education, for example, education is not designed for boys. It's not. It's just not. Like the educational experience is very difficult for young boys. And it doesn't mean you have to take them out. It doesn't mean, public school can be a wonderful thing. But we need to find ways where we're giving kids a childhood that is free of regimentedness, free of deadlines. This goes back to the sports. We pulled our son back last year. He's 11 now, or he's about to be 11. And we were on a in-between competitive team. Like when we traveled locally. We had like 6 tournaments. We played about 45 games, and it was all local for the most part, but it was a lot. And I was like, we got to scale it back. It's too much. Oh, he's going to miss out. He's going to do this. I'm like, no, he's not. And it came to me like, and we have a great team now. Like we're having fun and all this stuff, but it was realized to me just this past weekend. It was on Saturday. It was like 2:00. Like we would have been in a tournament. And my son's just playing down the street, going down behind the creek in his water boots, probably skinning his knees, playing with his neighborhood buddies, just having fun, being a kid. We have to be very intentional about allowing space for our kids to be kids. The reason why I haven't read The Anxious Generation yet, but not even talking about technology, is we've just overprogrammed everything in their life. Ugh. And with boys especially, they need to play. They need to be able to take risks. They need to be silly. Oh, there's another thing. 2 weeks prior, so they were out playing, and then their friends left, and my kids came in. I have a 10-year-old and 8-year-old, and they were just getting really squirrely in the house, and my youngest was going to take a nap. I was like, that's it, get in the car, we're going. I grabbed the fishing poles. We live by a river, and I was like, we're just going to go fish at the river. It's going to go there for about an hour. And they didn't even fish at all, but they grabbed my net, Almost broke it, little rascals. But they started a tadpole, convention. They were just catching tadpoles. They were fighting like cats and dogs at the house. The moment we stepped foot on the river rock of the riverbed, they didn't fight. They were just immediately working together. There's something for being out in creation, hiking, walking, water, things that children need, especially young boys need. If you're like, well, I'm not into camping. You need to be into camping if you have a little boy. I'm not really into fishing. You need to be into fishing. You need to be into the things that are important for a little boy to be into. And we need to give space for them to take some risks and hopefully not get hurt too bad. But just like, we let him go over to some friend's house that own a bunch of land, and he texted me, the dad, and he's a super great guy. He's like, hey, Titus wants to ride the ATV, Kenny. And my wife's like, honey, I just don't think it's a really good idea. I was like, well, he could get really hurt, but he could also have a lot of fun. And I know it's going to be in a safe environment as best as he can. He's going to have a helmet on. And he had a blast. Yes, could he have gotten hurt? Yeah. Could he have broken? Yeah. But like we have to let that happen. I was reading a report who's talking about the travesty of there's no danger for kids. Like doctors will report like kids aren't coming in for broken bones anymore because they're not doing anything that would break their bones. They're not jumping off of fences anymore. They're not climbing trees. It's just fascinating what's happening in our culture. It's an inundation of technology. I told my son, you will be the last kid to have a cell phone. Not because I'm trying to like create this thing. I was like, I will not give you one. Dad, he comes home a lot. They have this and they have that. Dad, I want to scan the cards that give me the instant value of those cards. No, I'm going to buy you a $15 Beckett that has pages and you have to look it up. Why? Because it takes the time for you to do it. We have to, this goes into the next thing. We have to create ways in which our kids have delayed gratification. And it's so hard. It's so hard. We bought our kids Nintendo Switches, but they're the ones that are not connected to the internet and they can't game with their buddies. Dad, what do they do? Nope. You want to play a game? You play your game. You don't need to do that. Well, I want to play with my buddies. Go play with them down the street. You guys play outside. Like we have to be really thoughtful and intentional about those things, especially with boys, because boys need to move. They need to play. They need to roughhouse. And so I'm saying all of this because my wife even said, okay, what are we doing for Titus? It's my son. And so we're putting a group of guys together. We're getting ready to do some things. Like I do some stuff with him individually, but I've noticed, and it's hard, but my voice isn't as potent in his life as it was when he was 7 and 8 and 9. He's learning to think as a young man for himself. And he loves my voice and we love time together, but I need other men who are going to be pouring into his life. And so we're forming a group of guys and their dad and their kids that all the boys are about 18 months apart. So we're all going to be kind of going through the same things. We're going to be talking about the things that 10-year-old boys should know about, that when we were kids, it was 13, 14, and 15. I can tell you, if you have a young boy and he's 10 years old and you haven't talked to him about the things you should talk to him about, he's already hearing it from someone else. So you better inject the truth of what it means for a husband and a wife and a man to love a woman and how God designed it, because the world's going to pervert it. And especially if they have access to technology and other means, they're hearing it. And so I'm not going to get too graphic, but like even my son and I were on our way. I'm so thankful because he's asking me questions and I'm just like, God, thank you that he wants to come to me. Like this was my hope. And he asked me this question. It was about some of the biological stuff. And he's like, oh, Dad, is that when you told me I'm like, that's exactly it. And he just starts like laughing. He's like, that's so sus. And kids say sus now and all these silly words, but it was beautiful. But so anyways, to recap that, like boys, you need adventure. You need to take risks. They need to skin their knees. As dads, we are the architects of fun, and we have to put that hat on. If you're a dad and you're bored and you have kids or boys, there's your fun and risk. Like just pick up mountain biking, pick up hiking, do rucking, like do something with your kid that gets you healthy or gets you active, engaged, and energized, get your testosterone going, and bring your son along for the ride. Watch what happens.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Adam, who else are we thanking?
Yeah, need to thank Peter for the time today, and I mentioned in the episode, but he also really impacted a crew night that I put together recently locally, and that was one of my favorite nights of my life. So thanks to you, Peter. Thanks to our partners, Tommy John. Go buy yourself some Tommy John shorts, underwear, polos, just do something. Vernite, if you're looking for a vehicle and you're whatever, I won't look anyplace else. Go to vernite.com. Also, just thanks to all of you who listen in on a weekly basis. I'm so incredibly honored and grateful for each of you. Have a great day.
Thank you guys.